Welcome back to another episode of Misplaced Garage. Today I'm going to be continuing working on the Miata swap 1974 Triumph Spitfire. I'm going to be beginning plumbing in the fuel system. I already got the fuel cell installed and she is good and sturdy, but now I need to run fuel lines all the way up to the front, and that's going to be a fun one. So I'm working with a company called Color Fittings. They have some extremely neat stuff. I have never personally seen gold AN fittings, and I thought that they would look extremely cool under the hood and in the trunk, so I went with those. When you see AN fittings, they're always like blue or red and it's kind of really boring, but I wanted to go with something that kind of grabbed the attention and kind of showed the detail that I want on this car. And Color Fittings seems like an awesome company. All of their parts feel incredibly solid to me, and their packaging is top notch. I mean, you can tell that a company cares about their product when they package it extremely well and they expect it to get to you in one piece. And that's what they did. I also noticed that they had an option of black anodized aluminum fuel line. I thought that that was an extremely cool idea. I've never seen anodized black fuel line, so that's gonna look really nice under the car. So if you have any needs for AN fittings or fuel line or really anything related to fittings and stuff, check out Color Fittings. They are pretty awesome. I'll leave a link below to let you guys know where you can go and get some parts from them. My idea here is to run two 90s going this way, run the line down into there. This is kind of a little grommet. I plan on replacing this grommet, but that's what I got in there for now. And I want to chase it down here and probably put the fuel filter right about here and the fuel pump right about here, because I can get power right down through there, and that's pretty much the sleekest way that I can think of doing it. I'm actually going to use the same technique that I think they used previously, because there's some painter's tape down here and it looks like it keeps the cut a little cleaner and keeps all the fibers together on the nylon. So it's not quite as clean of a cut as they had, but you know, it should work as long as I get rid of all these fibers and they don't end up inside the line. I shouldn't have any problems. I might trim them off a little bit. So I'll show you guys how you actually make an AN fitting. It's actually pretty simple. Your best friend is a very square cut and WD-40. So you want to add one of these. This is just a straight fitting, and I want to add this to the line. So what you do is you unscrew the, I'll call this the nut. You take it off of there. That's what you get on that side, and this is the nut. So this is where the square cutting, or the square cut, comes in handy. You take your pretty square cut. I've got some loose fibers on there, but I don't think it'll be a big deal. And you take your nut, you spray a little WD-40 up in there just to get it nice and lubed. And also spray the hose a little bit. And then just work it on there, basically. Try to get all the fibers in there as neatly as you can. Just twist it, push it, however you got to get it on there. You can actually use a bench and just push it down. As long as you're getting it to go in straight, there'll be no problems. So that looks pretty straight. And then, if you can see in there, the hose is pushed up all the way against the bottom of the threads, and that's the stopping point that you don't want to force it any farther. Get it tight, but nothing too tight. Guess I'm using PB Blaster now, sure to get the same effect. Spray a little on there, spray a little on that side, and that's the important part that you're shoving into the hose. So you want to stick it down on there, and while you're pushing down, you want to thread on and Make sure that the hose is not being pushed out the bottom or turning sideways or anything like that. But as long as everything's straight, you should wind up with a nice hose fitting. If you feel it start pushing out, then you know it's not seating properly. Spin it all the way down, just till it bottoms out basically. At some point it'll get really tight and won't let you spin it any farther. So now take it out of your soft vice clamp, take a look at it. As long as the hose is coming out nice and straight, you can pull on it and it doesn't fall out or anything like that. It is a good to go fitting. Now that I've got this hose complete, I'm gonna give it a shot and see if it fits. I may have to bore the hole out a little bigger where the hose goes through. Feed it through there nicely so I don't destroy the coating. Boom. There that is. Looking good so far. Let's see where this fitting ended up. And it's right about there. Not bad. So unfortunately I'm running into some issues and I can't use these EFI adapters for my specific application. That's just because these are sort of a universal fit. They're not going to fit everything. Most things they'll fit. I bet you that they would work if it was an American car, but not a big deal. I think temporarily while I order a fuel rail and fuel pressure regulator, I'm going to order aftermarket ones that have AN fittings on them, so I don't have to worry about any of those universal fittings. I'm just going to run soft lines up here and clamp them on the fuel rail just to get this car started, and later on I'll come back and fix that when I have a different fuel rail. One little tip I've picked up throughout doing this is putting it in the soft jaws here and clamping the tube there before you cut it, so then you don't got to be battling the line moving while you're trying to cut it. Just makes it a lot easier and you can get a much more square cut. I picked up a Walboro inline 155 liter fuel pump, and this should be enough for the Miata engine, and it's enough so that I can finish building the whole fuel system. I've got some of the lines plumbed in. This one is ready to go. This is going to be the inlet, and then this will be the return line here. But yeah, it's coming along nicely. I did do the two fronts previously, as you guys saw. I will have to drill out that hole a little larger, and I bought some grommets over here, so one of these should fit in there once I drill it a little larger. And it should fit just about perfectly. You know, I might be able to fit two through here, I don't know yet, but I need a grommet in there so then I don't fray and destroy this nice looking line. I think the fuel filter is actually going to end up in the trunk somewhere like right about here, so that it's lower than the fuel cell itself, because there's not enough room under there to fit both the fuel pump and the fuel filter. And I absolutely have to have a fuel filter, obviously. mock-up. Ooh, it's looking all right. Maybe I could reverse it to even set the filter back a little farther so that it's not quite on that hump, but it's looking pretty good to me. I'm super happy with the way these things are turning out. I think they look beautiful. Nice, ran cleanly over to the holes in the trunk. Then they run over here, and I will be looping them up underneath the axle. They're at different lengths because one is for a hard line and one is for the fuel pump here. So now that I have all the soft line plumbed in over there, I'm going to figure out how to use these hard line adapters for AN6. I believe there is a little like brass fitting inside of there that kind of clamps down on the tubing, or at least I think. And shout out to Color Fittings, because this black anodized aluminum pipe is pretty dang cool in my opinion. So that is what you want the end of your tubing to look like. You want it deburred both on the inside and the outside, so then you get a nice good seal. So yeah, a little PV blaster or lube actually helps it go on pretty easily. So you slide the nut on there far enough, you slide the little brass fitting, and then you push this down onto it. They go all the way together, and you start screwing it together. Make sure it's bottomed out on the tube before you tighten it down. And as you tighten it down, it locks it together basically. I'm not gonna do it yet because I don't know how long I need this tube to be. But once I know how long I need it to be, then we will be as good as golden. And just like that, I cut it off. I use one of these little tubing cutters. You just kind of tighten it down, spin it around, tighten it down, spin it around. You don't tighten it too far that it starts to deform the tube, but you just do it little bits at a time. Then you deburr the end like I showed you previously. Now what you want to do is lock it into your soft jaws. Luckily for me, I've got no ceiling up above me, so I can stick 5 feet of tubing up in the air. Gonna put you guys way back there in the back of the car. I'm going to feed this line up through here, hopefully. So this is the return line. It looks like get about correct. So I've got both ends fitted on there, completely bottomed out, and it's ready to go on. I'm gonna leave the wrapping on once again just to get it in place, and then I can take it off. I don't really want to scratch it up, but I guess it's not the worst thing in the world to scratch it up since it will be under the car. So the last thing I need to do for the fuel system is run wiring. So the painless fuel or the painless wiring harness comes with a fuel pump fuse, but the wire and fuse itself is only rated to about 15 amps. So that is not enough for this fuel pump. This fuel pump is rated for about 20 amps, so I need about 5 more amps. Unfortunately, the gauge of wire that they run with it is 16 gauge, so it is not thick enough to even try running 20 amps through it. I don't want to have that fire and that problem. So I'm going to try and remove the terminal out of that fuse panel and replace the wire with some of this 10 gauge and see if that will do it, because 10 gauge is plenty enough to run 20 amps all the way back to the fuel pump. So I pulled my fuse panel down, and as you can see here, this fuel pump is 15 amps. So I gotta figure out what I need to do, because the fuel pump wire here is the white and yellow one. I don't know what this red one is, but it appears that it's got a thicker wire here, so that should be enough for 20 amps. I think that's giving power. That is the power inlet to this fuse, and this is the power outlet to the back of the car. So I need to figure out how to pull this white and red one out. So over here in the fuse box, this is the fuel pump wire and this is the electric choke. I do not need either of these wires currently. Like I said, this fuel pump wire is too thin for me to use, and this car doesn't have a choke, so we're just gonna cut those off and remove them from the harness. So I replaced the terminal in there. You can see which one is a slightly different color. That's okay, it'll work the same. And I can pull on it and it won't come out, so that's how you know it's gonna be a good long-term fix. And now I've got a 10 gauge wire sticking out here, and clearly that carries some serious power, so now I can run this to the relay and get the fuel pump wired up. Drew this schematic here to help me wire the fuel pump in correctly. So obviously I gotta have positive power from the battery, so that's fused. Obviously the 20 amp fuse is right there. Then it goes into the 30. I think that this is the correct one. Yeah, it's got a 30 option on it. And then 87 goes to the fuel pump, so that's that one. Then 85 is a ground, and that is this one right here. And 86 is switched. So I'm gonna have the fuel pump switched up here. Obviously the switch isn't in place because I don't have it right there. I think I blew that one up, so I bought another one. Yeah, it's right here. So that one's good to go. And from the ground, I'm going to be adding an inertia switch later on. That is if the car gets wrecked or something and the inertia switch senses a large sudden movement, it will trigger the fuel pump to turn off. So if you, in case you wreck it and a fire starts, the fuel pump will turn off and won't keep pumping fuel, making the fire much worse. It's more of a safety thing than anything. So I've got the full fuel pump wired up. Here's the relay. I hope to mark this in the future, just saying that this is the relay for the fuel pump. But I followed all the wire down through the loom here, and then I made a T, and it goes through the floorboard. There is a negative ground coming up back through there, and it grounds to right here. I removed the paint, grounded it, and then put a primer over the top of it. And it comes down here and connects to the fuel pump right there. About as clean as I could get it. So unfortunately, I don't think I am getting power through that fuse. I don't know what happened, but I may have screwed something up for some reason, or whatever it means, but that I have everything connected correctly and I don't get the fuel pump to turn on. I've looked at multiple websites to see what I could be doing wrong, but they all are wired up exactly the same. I've tried 2 relays now just to see if one of them was broken, but it's not working. I think I just need to figure out the fuse block. I think maybe I may have made a mistake there somewhere, pulling power from somewhere that doesn't get constant power. Anyways guys, the only thing I have left to finish on the fuel system is wiring in the float level. Tell me how full the fuel cell is, obviously fixing the fuel pump wiring, and then testing for leaks, and that's about it with the fuel system. Well, that'll be the end of this video. If you guys liked it and you enjoy seeing this content, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing, and I will see you in the next one.